Hello, many thanks for joining us on Weekly Press Review, your #1 wrap-up analysis program live on GBC News and on GTV. We are also streaming live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Sani Abrahman. It is the first edition of Weekly Press Review 2021. Of course, we had a wonderful year. 2022, rather. I still belong in the past. Well, we had a beautiful 2021, looking at all the major issues and helping you to appreciate how the country is governed, for you to effectively participate in the governance process. 2022 promises to be fun, exciting, and all your wishes and aspirations will be realized, inshallah. My name is Sani Abrahman once more. Soon I'll be introducing my guest for today's discussion, but in the meantime, let me run you by some of the stories that caught the attention of the papers in the course of the week and were featured prominently on the front pages. Producer, what are we starting with? Also, we know the Black Stars will be having their second encounter in the ongoing AFCON 2022. Will be clashing with the Gabon team, and I'll be telling you a lot about that. Let's start with the headlines for now. Preserve country's unity, Asantehene charges media, and that story is fully captured on the front page of the Daily Graphic. Students plead with governments to address UTAG strike issues. Of course, it's one of the issues that we'll be looking at quite extensively on today's edition of our Weekly Press. And replacing aging farmer population, 500 youth receive support, their first batch. And that's it's a good thing, because we have not more or less invested enough to make agriculture attractive to the youth. 6.1 million police medical emergency fund launched, and that has the picture of some of the beneficiaries and President Akufo-Addo together with the IGP and the Interior Minister. Academic calendar to be out soon. It was released last night. We'll be talking about that as well on today's edition of the program. Quite good for the police to have this kind of facility, so that those who sustain injuries in the line of work could be properly attended to. Government suspends benchmark reversal. President recommends wider consultation. That story is fully captured on page 16. Monday edition of the Ghanaian Times. Grab a copy if you want to read more, but we'll also be looking at that issue. We'll look at why the suspension, when we are told about the enormous benefits of the reversal, as we want to improve our domestic manufacturing sector. ECOWAS tightens sanctions against Mali. Stars Morocco. This was the first match that the paper is talking about. Today, the Black Stars will be clashing with the Gabonese, and we're looking to have our first win in the ongoing AFCON, so that our chances of qualifying to the next stage and ultimately bringing the cup home will be realized. Ghana National Fire Service personnel under investigation over stolen extinguishers. SIM card registration, telcos beef up logistics, and it has the picture of the chief executive of the telecommunication chamber. It has dominated discussions in the last couple of weeks, as people are stranded in getting access to the centers, and also the network challenges that some of the registration centers have been encountering has made the process a bit cumbersome. We've had about a raft of measures by the Ministry of Communications to address some of these challenges. How has these interventions been faring? They address the concerns. We'll be looking at it on the show. Equipping students with 21st century skills, STEM project takes off, and has the picture of President Akufo-Addo, who cut the sword for the first of such centers in Accra. That was on Wednesday. We'll try to look at that as part of our analysis of the education sector in the country. Our services are free, and that's according to the National Ambulance Service. 32 million Ghana City STEM Academy takes off as President cuts sword for construction of facility to produce engineers and scientists. And this was the story captured on the front page of the Daily Graphic. Minister constitutes task force to reclaim parks and gardens lands. Got some good news. And subscribers appeal for extension of SIM card registration deadline one of the stories we'll be looking at. Today's edition of the Daily Graphic, it leads with a story about one of the important things that we use in life. It's water I'm talking about. Ghana Water Company produces under capacity, 40% production lost. And we've seen rationing of water in the last couple of weeks. And the company has come out to highlight some of the challenges it's facing. What can we do to resolve these challenges so that we can have adequate and consistent supply of water? In a subsequent programs and news bulletins, we'll be engaging the Ghana Water Company to get some clarification on what they're doing. Payment system in African local currencies launched, that's the PAPS. Quite some good initiative there because it's going to help in the Africa Continental Free Trade Area program, because we know the costs of using the international payment system. In the course of the discussion, I'll be telling you more of the headlines. But for now, let's start with the discussion. On my immediate left is the Member of Parliament for South Dai, the Honorable Roxanne Nelson. I want you to pronounce the last name for me so that we get the proper rendition before we start the discussion. I wanted to take this lesson on air.
Will you master it today?
Today, to be the final time.
Anyway, Happy New Year. Today, if you fail, you won't take the course again.
Okay, so I'll come back for that.
So the name is Dafamapo.
Dafamapo.
No, Dafamapo.
Dafamapo.
Blow a candle, let me see. Blow a candle. No, blow a candle. That's all.
Okay.
So Dafamapo.
Dafamapo.
Blow a candle again.
Oh, no, welcome back. Just after him is the Member of Parliament for Botiano English Amanfo, the Honorable Sylvester Matthew Tete, representing the New Patriotic Party. Of course, the Honorable Roxanne Nelson is representing the National Democratic Congress, the largest opposition party in the country. We start with the discussion. Thank you so much for being our first guest for 2022. And
are we still the largest opposition, or we are the party with equal strength in the country? Equal strength.
That's in Parliament.
Parity of strength. But how are the strength of parties determined?
But we've seen the Member of Parliament for Mina voting to do business.
The man is an independent one.
He's not. We've had your...
No, he says...
The minority chief whip.
He says, no, he says in doing business in Parliament for purposes of doing business on the floor.
Earlier in the week,
when he gets
the minority chief whip, the Honorable Muntaka, raised concerns that the man is now fully siding with the majority, even when they are walking out.
In respect of business on the floor. When he gets to Formina, he's a man of his own.
Well, with less than 2 months left to the end of the SIM re-registration exercise, many mobile phone users are pleading with the Communication Ministry and the National Communications Authority to extend the deadline for the exercise. The exercise is to help the NCA and telcos to have accurate data of mobile phone users for security management and tailored products. The exercise, we were told, has been plagued with long queues and network challenges, but the ministry has since announced a raft of measures to ease the congestion. It includes the deployment of additional registration centers corresponding with the subscriber numbers of each operator to ease the congestion. So we'll take the views of our panelists on this issue, and as well we have a lot of issues to discuss. Today's show promises to be exciting and informative. Honorable, let me start with you on this one. Have you had your SIM registered?
Not yet. Not yet.
Will you have your SIM registered?
My SIM is registered.
Re-registered, as government has?
My SIM has been several times re-registered. And so, I'm happy Sylvester is here. I think it's important that we look at this whole process of re-registration of SIM. Pursuant to LI 2011, passed in 2006 under President Kufuor, it became imperative for the telcos to register or to determine the identity of SIM owners. Initially, in fact, the number I used, this number is about 20 years old. I got it sometime 2:02. You just walk in and you get a SIM and you were off. But then when the LI was passed in 2006, it became imperative. So the give and take, to and fro, stakeholder consultations. So MTN being the major stakeholder in the industry took the first steps to commence the registration in 2010. In fact, as far back as May. And I took my SIM card at Accra Girls, formerly Choice FM. They had an office there. So we registered our SIM, as it were. But there were issues, there were difficulties, and the deadline given and all. So in 2014, government reordered. So that was how come the term re-registration first emerged, because the actual registration of SIM card owners began in 2010, pursuant to the LI, 2011. Then, because of the difficulties, government by policy directed that the telcos go back to re-register with the owners. So we were re-registered in 2014. So reluctantly, some of us went back. Then we moved on. Then when the current minister came, if you recall, one of her first policy directives in 2017 was for re-registration of SIM cards. And I didn't fault her at the time, because being a member of the new government, they may also want to take charge of the data available and all. Because at the time, SIM box fraud was rampant. You know, if you recall the arrest of, you know, and police barging into cells of these illicit operators. So I didn't fault her. So we went through the re-registration again, and we were assured that going forward, nobody could own a SIM card in the Republic of Ghana without his or her identity being known. Even a person in law, a person artificial or natural, your identity had to be known. So companies that were registered purposely to engage in mobile money business, because you needed a merchant SIM. Your identity was determined as an established and an incorporated business in this country. That's 2017, 5 years ago. So I have always been of the idea that all young persons who had attained majority were now acquiring SIM cards, or every parents who were getting SIM cards for their children so that they could communicate with them when they were away, were getting the cards with their identities properly determined. So what is this business of us being ordered to go back and re-register our SIM cards for the third time, but by way of registration for the fourth time in 12 years? You know, that's why I have a problem. So it means that another minister will come tomorrow and say we should re-register our SIM. How many times do we have to register our SIM cards? However important the policy directive is, I think the government too should look at the convenience that it has for people. As for the raison d'etre, the rationale for doing so, we've been told as far back as 2010 why it's important to do so, even by way of revenue. We want to know how many subscribers are on each network and how much revenue is coming in, so government can tax. That is fine. We want to determine that when somebody uses a SIM card to send a threatening message of threat to another, which constitutes a crime, the identity of the user of that SIM card can be determined. When people use SIM cards to engage in mobile money fraud, their identities can be determined. And when the number of persons who subscribe to the telcos on annual basis, it also helps to determine the growth rate of the industry. So we are agreeable, we are amenable to the reasons, and we accept the reasons for doing this. But it appears that It's just a policy that is being repeated without us being told why we are repeating it.
In this case,
Yes.
I listened to the minister where she said, if you look at the identification documents that have been used over the years in registering SIMs, you realize people were using cards that you could easily sit somewhere and acquire. For that matter, fake identity cards. People were using voters' IDs that could not be verified instantly by the telcos. And that's affected the credibility of the data. You could see one person having access to 20, 50, 100 registered SIMs, which doesn't happen anywhere where data is taken serious. So now that we have the Ghana card where your biometric is taken and everything, they think with the usage of the Ghana card in registering, it will help deepen the credibility of the data.
Again, that's a zero-sum argument. The SIM card registration is not to avoid persons from holding multiple cards. That's not the essence. The essence is to determine that when myself or my brother Sylvester, we have 2 lines or 3 lines, those 2 or 3 lines are traceable to us. It is not to say that you are not entitled.
So in the case, in a situation where the identity document used
I will
not
address
valid.
No, I will address that. I will address that. So it's not a policy that is to bar an individual or a corporate entity from holding multiple lines at all. Even when Ghana Telecom was using the analog system at the time, there were homes that had 2, 3 lines. My father, for instance, had his own line, and then there was another for the general house. So when the bills came, he knew how much he had consumed, but he knew those of us who were using it to call our friends, and then he would call us to justify why he must. So as for holding multiple lines, it's always been the case in the telecommunications industry. Her argument that the basic document identifying the holder of the SIM, yes, every country will make progress. We began by not even registering at all. And then improvements came. Then now we registered. At the time we were undergoing the registration, those documents were valid. Then there was another policy directive for us to re-register in 2014. Another improvement came. The documents we rely on were again valid. You couldn't tell me that in 2014, those who used their voter's ID card to register their SIM card, it was wrongful in law. At the time, it was valid. Those who used even their driver's license or student's ID card to acquire their SIM, to register their SIM card for the first time in 2010, when the directive was rolled out, it was wrong. It was simply to determine an identity of the holder. If you are saying that pursuant to the amendment to the National Identity, the Nationality Act, the source document for identifying a lot of Ghanaians is now the National ID card. And mind you, let the argument be made that holding of SIM card is also not only open to only nationals. So the argument about using National ID card, which is also because we have National ID card for foreigners and National ID card for nationals. It was the duty of the regulator agency to direct the telcos that upon the official recognition, of course, by the judicial decision, that National ID card became the source document for identifying persons resident within the 4 walls of the Republic of Ghana, nationals and non-nationals. All future registrations for the acquisition of SIM card should be NIA card. That would have solved it.
Even when the regulator had issues with the credibility of the existing data. For example, you talked about the fact that student ID cards were used to register SIM cards.
Yes.
In terms of reliability, we cannot rely on.
Why? I attended the University of Cape Coast. I attended the University of Ghana. And then I attended Ghana School of Law. I've attended other schools. And you are saying that, for instance, when I was a professional law student, the ID card given to me by the Ghana School of Law to enable me access public services wasn't legitimate.
Okay.
No, that is why we say it's an identity. That's why we say it's an identity.
I'll come back to you. You've made your opening.
Yes.
Let me pick the thought of Honorable Tete. Honorable Tete, he is of the view that the exercise is needless. Since we have registered a couple of times, we should now register.
Many times. This is the fourth one.
Well,
the fourth one.
Thank you very much, Sonny, and Happy New Year.
As a vice chairman of the communications committee, briefings from the minister, a lot of questions were asked. So I'm privy to the process of asked and made all these arguments at the committee level. And I must say, I also the challenge and the difficulty people have to go through to get this thing done. We've asked all these questions to the extent that people have been asking that indeed, if I have my Ghana card, then of course, once I place my Ghana card, you should be able to extract the information and match it so that you can verify it and all that. Explanations were given there. But let me make the point that nobody is belittling the importance of having a credible identity identified of each SIM card holder. And I like the impression that he corrected that indeed you can own as many as possible, but let us be sure that we know who owns it and where the person is and all that. Look, in the cyberspace today, SIM card is a very important tool that can destabilize our cyber ecosystem. And with all the instances he's cited, we didn't know when I had my SIM from home. Somebody actually got my SIM from home. When I moved from Starcom, MTN wanted a cheap Ariba then.
Ariba.
The cards were not available.
Space phone, Ariba.
Yeah, Space Phone, Ariba. I think, is it Space Phone before Ariba or Ariba before?
Space Phone first.
Yeah, so it was Space Phone. Yeah. And anybody who used a 0244 means I had a card for a very long time, about 20 years. So I had to send somebody. They send them to the regional capitals. So Accra you were not getting Accra. You know how much I bought it? I bought it for 20 Ghana cedis then. I bought it for 20 Ghana cedis then. I remember. Yeah, I bought it for 20 Ghana cedis then. A lot of money.
And Vodafone was selling at 1 million.
Yes. So
1.2.
Yeah, thereabout. So we've come a very long way. But security threat has emerged in a space like this where SIM box fraud, where people today, a lot of people has lost their monies because we cannot identify, especially Momo, where Momo has become the biggest financial in our country today. And you have chunk or majority of our people in this space that we cannot really identify who they are. And when they do transactions, a lot of fraud is being perpetrated. We are all at risk when people take their mobile phone. WhatsApp today, you are on platforms or people use WhatsApp to do all manner of things. Trace all these people. Let us all agree that indeed ID, ordinarily, one would have thought that is a credible source document to be able to by few, but where we cannot even regulate who comes in, even under the ECO, people come here by regulation. If you have 90 days, but who cares? That person comes here today, he arrives at the airport, get to the shell shop, get a SIM card, check into a hotel, or get a house rented that same day. No checks. Commit a crime and leave the next day. So, with all these risks that this country is exposed to and affect policy has been, but of course, it comes with a huge cost. I see the number of people. I've visited some sites as part of my responsibility as a vice chairman. I had a lot of calls from radio stations. I went to Medina myself, from my house to Accra on the N1, no, not the N1, not the Tetapashi, of the Malam Road. Getting to Accra Academy, you find Suman, a shy man, many places the queues are quite unbearable. Through Nyamiche, yes. It tells you the number of people, especially when the deadline is drawing closer. So for me, I sympathize with many Ghanaians. This no true fault of theirs, but how the system is a security risk that we all need to help. We all know today, Ghana card. Somebody asked a question: why is it that when I present my Ghana card, you should be able to extract, but you have to go through biodata collection and all that? It is against what you have to ensure that indeed you are the person. So I know that a test of time compared to what we've done in previous times. I know this is more credible, this is more reliable, and this is more safer. Now somebody picks a phone and wants to threaten somebody. That you threaten the person, the next day it could be picked up. But formally, somebody picks a call, a phone, threatens somebody, commits a crime, and it becomes very difficult to even trace the person. This issue of foreign nationals, I was in Yaoundé to watch the Ghana Black Stars, the first match. And when we arrived, we attempted to get a SIM card. It's difficult. You can't get it. And I said, wow. Then I realized that we are doing something right. In all fairness, I know that what people are going through, usually it is the people who are queuing and wanting to go through this are the law-abiding people who will not necessarily do the bad things that we are talking about. But it comes as a cost to us as a society. So we plead with the populace to bear with government. I'm happy that we made this call to the telcos to beef up the logistics to be ensured that we have these processes done smoothly so Ghanaians can do these things. Because elsewhere, you shouldn't have to queue that number of hours, but it's happening. And I'm happy that telcos through the chamber have to beef up the. But you know, one difficulty, and I expressed that before the committee, that look, you go to the countryside, the MTN offices are located only at the district capitals. It takes somebody 7 hours.
Have it at all.
7 travel to.
I don't have one. In
to travel that far to get it done. What is going to happen to such people? People come to the city centers once a week for market days. If they miss the opportunity, it means they have to come again. These are things that we have to.
Now, based on the challenges you raised, we've had calls for the deadline to be extended. Is it something?
Well, I mean, clearly, if you look at the number of SIM cards we have, the number that have been registered, I mean, common sense should tell you that if people are going through this difficulty, we all see. But it's not to say that before we start, we will extend. No, let people go through. We'll make a call if need be for an extension. I mean, I'm not sure. The minister this question at the committee level, and she indicated that, look, so far, at the time we're at the committee level, there are about 5 million people who have registered, and we have over 20. What it means is that registered. Going forward, I think more people have registered now than at the time the minister was. A month ago. Yes, yeah. So we know that let's keep pushing, let's keep improving them and the processes. We'll get to the stage where it's necessary for extension. And the minister had intimated that nobody will be denied opportunity to do what is right for this country. And I think that when you get there, we'll make a solemn call for that.
Okay. Yes, quickly. I know that if I was in Abuja about 3 weeks ago, parliamentary duties, and you could get a SIM card with your passport. And it's one of the things we are calling for, because you see, the SIM is a source of revenue. It's a source of revenue, and I think government is being oblivious to that. When the SIM is acquired and the person is coming, it's a temporary visitor. After 2-3 weeks, he will leave. SIMs. One for Canada, one for US. And no. What I mean is that when we visited, our acquired used it. So what I do is periodically you activate it. Yeah. So it stays in your name. And the US want to periodically you buy credit, you load it. Your name. Otherwise they will delay those, block it. So it's in my name because I use my passport to acquire it, so it's known. If I use that number, they know that I am using it. This time we are all crying for that it be done, but the justification, see, the reasons appears to with the same reasons were given in 2010, in 2014, 17. Because as for the SIM, but for the fact that registration was done in 2010, there was no way they could have those 4 states. But I agree that we should improve the monitoring in cyberspace. But the improvement in terms of being effective in terms of the monitoring, being more efficient, should not be a basis for a wholesome total re-registration. That is the point that
let me try to offer some explanation to that.
And let me say this. I don't know what the issue is, but it should be possible. One hotel that place of residence. If it's a hotel with your passport, you should be able to get a SIM card to make a call. I wasn't there. I didn't know. I thought there should be a way.
Let me verify. So yes, let me. I was there for 2 days, and for that 2 days, you have to go through some verification and all that. It was so cumbersome that you could not do that. But let me say that we all reckon that the source document for this registration in 4 occasions is weak. It has exposed all of us. So the fundamental argument is that the data that we have is quite weak.
I don't think so.
And it's weak. Otherwise, we have issues of SIM box fraud at the magnitude it is today. We won't have cyber fraud as it is today. We won't have Momo that has become a big backbone for the informal sector and for all of us, threaten the magnitude at which it is today. Get the data from the police and then the security services. You tell you how much money people have lost. And the telcos are aware. That's why they are part of this whole process. And the regulation is apt. Because if you are in exclusivity, in rare cases where people in this country, how many people has passport compared to Ghana card? The credibility of a passport, yes, is okay. Some people, do you know that the source document even for a passport, at some instances, there were people who are not even Ghanaian obtain it or not. I'm not doubting the credibility of a passport. Like
but we have moved beyond
We've moved beyond that. But the point I'm making,
since 2017,
yes,
we made progress. But the point I'm making is that the re-registration won't reduce the problems.
It will.
The problem is we have re-registered twice. This is the third.
But the data were raised
about the source document.
The re-registration. What is the meaning of source document?
No, let me tell you this.
When you identify, you identify.
Nelson,
Unless they have data to show that there have been incidents or instances of crime committed, we have gone to trace the owners of this so-and-so chip or so-and-so SIM cards. And it was determined that even though the photograph and the name said it was Kojo Mensah, but in reality, it was Ajwa.
Let me tell you something.
If they are making those cases, then that's reasonable.
They
haven't made those cases.
Nelson,
they're only saying is to check fraud, is to check box, and all that.
Let me tell you something. Go to Circle.
Yes.
Go to Circle. Yes. Tiptoe Lane and part of the city or elsewhere.
Yes.
Oh, you want to buy a SIM card? Oh, me what the AI register that open. You heard this?
It happens.
Register.
That's de minimis.
If people want to commit crime, you think you have about 30% going on a spree of attempting to commit crime? People have SIM cards registered. There are a lot of people. You check your WhatsApp. The people who owns WhatsApp accounts and you want to follow up. Those who misbehave a lot, who send anonymous messages, their cards are not correctly registered. And these are things we want to check. How do you know?
You should go to the telco. Don't issue SIM card to your merchants. You understand?
No.
Okay. The point I'm making is that you have a merchant or you have an accredited retail outlet. You must ensure that you acquire the SIM card to further retail. You don't give them out. That is how come somebody can acquire 20 SIM cards with the same identity and go to cycle and sell at a higher price. That you must avoid.
In some cases.
Because this re-registration won't cure that.
No, but listen, where
Don't cure it.
Where you have your student ID,
Yes.
is good to go.
Yes.
You have your voter ID,
Yes.
is good to go.
Yes.
You have your passport.
Yes.
You have any ID at all.
Yes.
Student ID.
Yes.
You can produce student ID of all the universities in this country.
But you haven't given us data. You haven't
please.
given us that
Please.
data. That if in the cases of criminal matters that you have investigated, this percentage of the offenders.
I think we should go further to the police, but it's an open secret.
Oh.
And
Well,
let me tell you, people
gentlemen,
I'll give you an example. People in the Momo sector, I mean, they've been hard hit.
I agree.
Yeah, you know that. So that is the cure.
But
And
it is not the registration.
It will
The
cure
people
it.
using the line,
will-
they have registered it.
No, listen. When you are registered and your data and everything, the biodata is captured as it is today.
Yes.
Go and commit a crime. They'll get you.
Well,
Unlike
my
before,
gentlemen, that's
sometimes you
all,
even
all time
take somebody's
permit us,
ID number and then
on,
go.
on this subject.
It's the police who are not trying to track the
And one of the
police.
issues
what
that,
are you
that,
gonna
that,
talk
that
about?
has
No.
dominated headlines in the course of the week, I mean in the past couple of weeks, has been the benchmark value reversal. Government, we know, has suspended the implementation of the reversal of discounts on benchmark values until further notice. In a statement issued on Thursday, the authority, that is the Ghana Revenue Authority, said the decision is to enable further engagement with all the relevant stakeholders. President Akufo last week ordered the suspension of the implementation for further consultations that should have been concluded on January 17, 2022. The benchmark value, which is the amount taxable on imports, was reduced by 50% for some goods and 30% for vehicles in the country. The move was to make Ghana ports more competitive and increase cargo volumes. If you look at the objectives for introducing the benchmark value policy, have they been achieved? And why is government taking a move to suspend a portion of the policy and now suspending the reversal again for broader consultation? We try to answer some of these questions for your understanding when it comes to the issue of the benchmark value policy. Let me start with you, Honorable Tete, on this one. We were told the government argued strongly. I quite remember prior to the 2022 budget presentation that suspending or reversing a portion of the policy was in good and is going to help boost the manufacturing sector, because you could not have incentives on goods, on imported goods, that you have the competitive edge to produce locally. Why and reversing the policy?
First of all, let people understand that it is not the product that has the benchmark value affecting that has been reversed today. I mean, policy is to achieve an intended purpose. So you do periodic review of the policy. This policy came, and in the wisdom of government, is to achieve a purpose. The purpose to ease the burden of Ghanaians, as it were. Today, government position is that we also need to safeguard and protect local industries. So, I mean, the items were carefully selected. For instance, if you look at the vehicles, the automobile industry, today we have Toyota, we have Nissan, we have other companies in this country assembling vehicles in this country. So this is a young industry that needs to be protected. So if you keep giving benchmark values of 30% discount to imported vehicles, what it means is that you are putting these companies at risk and not to be able to compete favorably. So you need to protect that industry that creates jobs for your people. Today you're looking at 1D, 1F to spell our industrialization. So things that are manufactured here that can even to be exported. These are things that when you lift the benchmark value, it gives them an opportunity favorably. So I think that is essence of what we are doing. And people should understand. I mean, this is not politics. All of us talking about this, in the state of it and all that. First of all, job security for our people is important. People are investing millions into industry and all that. And we keep importing with that degree of relief to the importing public. List of items that are still captured under the benchmark value. Incredible. So where we have capacity, we should be able to protect what we are doing here. Capacity, we must give respite to them so that when it's imported, what it means is that it will the local people. Look at GUTA and AGI. AGI welcomes the removal of the benchmark values. And then GUTA says government should keep it. GUTA are the traders, the importing public. And AGI are industry. You get a point? So you weigh the compelling argument, and AGI from day one have been advocating that the removal in the first place will not help their cause. And the good task is that we import, reduce the duties for us so that we can also keep the prices on the market and all that. But you need to listen to the competing argument of GUTA and AGI. AGI think that we want to be manufacturers. We want to industrialize this country. We are putting our money into equipment to be able to produce the same things they bring here. Then we have to look at the items that are produced here. And let me remove the benchmark values to protect and aid you so that you can do more for even export. You can compete favorably. Because if you produce these caps here, with all the taxes and everything have to pay your workers, and somebody brings the same thing to this country, and there are no taxes applied to it, as it were. Get into the importing space. What it means is that you're creating job opportunity for people in other countries. So yes, whatever policy you bring, people, depending on where they stand. But I'm happy that the president has called for extension of the policy for now, for broader and wider consultation, so that we arrive where people really understand this. Government all over the world, when you bring a policy and there's some unease, you have to go back, sit down with the people, educate, and explain your position.
Like e-levy.
Like the e-levy.
Is that to suggest that when the reversal was being considered, there were no engagement?
There were engagement. I tell you what, there were engagement. I know there were engagement. The Minister of Finance was in Kema, was in Abos. He met people. I mean, their reps met people and all that. But finally, once it's out and people are still talking, maybe wider consultation for. And I heard leadership applauding government for this policy. And then GUTA also saying that it's going to kill their businesses. Therefore, we must put all of them together and further engage them for us to arrive at a place that will be comfortable for all of us. Because we need jobs, our young people in this country. We need the industries to keep working.
Then government should be firm on the position.
As of the position, government is fair. But being accommodating to diverse views doesn't mean you are not firm. Government has not said that it has perpetually withdrawn this, but suspended for a while for further consultation. And I'm of the view that I'm happy that it is not a wholesale thing, as it were, but selected items. So we should be looking at the items that are carefully selected. That is the only way we can propel our industrialization and create teaming young people. Every successive government has had to grapple with this issue of youth unemployment, and that is what is carrying us in our faces. So if people are being encouraged, government is giving tax breaks to companies, giving them exemptions to bring equipment to set up, and you say your final product is meeting such a stiffer competition from the importing public, there's a threat of collapse of these industries we are setting up today in Ghana, and that is a risk. So we are carefully looking at products, we are carefully looking at the processes where we keep the job on people, we are carefully looking at things that are produced here. Because the automobile industry, Ghana is once it's been assembled here, there are a lot of jobs being
across the value chain.
Across the value chain. Export will bring us revenue and all that. So if you kill it, they will move to another jurisdiction.
If you've just joined us, it's still a weekly press review live on GBC News and on GTV, also streaming live on Facebook and Broadcasting Corporation. You can leave your comments in the comment section. We'll be reading it on your screen. Also, there's a WhatsApp number if you want to conversation, you have any thoughts you want to share with us. I'll be reading them out at the latter part of the show, so you are allowed to do so. Honorable, you've had arguments on the side of government as to why they've suspended the reversal. Broader consultation, they say. What do you make of the back and forth since the attempt by government reverse the policy in some aspect?
Now, has been whimsical with this policy. Whimsical because, if you recall their arguments when they were taking this off, and you hear the argument within a space of 2-3 years, then you want to ask yourself, is government being analytical or is government being assisted with data? Government came to say that in order to all right, so that persons and to make the cost of import less costly, so that others can open more businesses, they were lifting these benchmarks. So whilst Abuso Okan was in jubilation, AGI and the executive
were mourning.
They were mourning. Right? And government won't budge, so they did it for the politics of it. If you look at government's data in terms of the performance of GRA, and you see, it's important that we do the analysis. Government has realized, even the GRA, every year they will say that they have met their target. When you interrogate the figures, it's only customs, the customs wing of it, that is performing. So government has cleverly looked at the figures and decided that if they leave the benchmarks, then customs can rake in more. Set the disequilibrium other departments of GRA it's incurring. Let's look at the figures. This is for December 2021. If you look at direct tax, they projected to collect 27.4 billion. No, 27.7 billion. They collected 27.4. It's a shortfall. If you look at indirect tax, projected to collect 13.6 billion, 13.9 billion, almost 14. They collected 13.6. It's a shortfall. Now, if you look at customs projected to collect 15 billion. They collected 16 billion. So the difference of almost 700 million has offset the other two imbalances government suffered in terms of direct tax. If you come to the other levies that government imposed last year and the year before, if you look at the energy sector recovery, which they are continuing with, they projected to collect energy sector recovery levy. They projected to collect 666 million, 666 million. They collected 560, so a shortfall of about 100 million. Then sanitation levy, they projected to collect 311 million. They ended up getting 264. So clearly, government cleverly looked at the figures and saw that it's only the ports that has become a major regular performer in terms of exceeding its targets. So the only leeway they can have now is to lift the benchmarks. Okay. Now
you don't reason with them when they say they want to boost the local industries. If you are importing and you are getting discounts, why will you want to produce such a product on the local market if you can import it at a discounted
We
cost?
confronted them with that argument 2-3 years ago, that you have introduced flagship policies, planting for food and for jobs. Then a year later, you followed it up with planting for food and nothing for exports.
Railing for food and export.
Exactly, railing for exports. You have introduced a policy called one district, one factory. When the factories produce to export, all right. So, do you, in God's name, be introducing these benchmarks, lifting the benchmark values? Boom batch. Then they said no. In respect of the import duties and issues, they think that more jobs rather will be created with some of these policies at the port. 2 years down the line, the policy is biting them in terms of revenue.
Now I don't think it's wholly true.
No, but,
but you see,
but I've confronted you with the figures.
This figure go back when you had not introduced benchmark values. Successive government had suffered this same setback.
But
so it cannot
exactly.
It's not attributable
it is
to the benchmark value argument you are making.
Particularly when you not there at the time.
It is not.
No, my brother,
you've never met your projections
in
terms of direct taxes.
But you didn't say so. You said that with the introduction of digitalization and all that, the suspension of the benchmark values will have no effect. These were your arguments, and that you were rather going to use jobs. 2-3 years down the line, you have gone a full cycle to now say that now you want to protect the local industry. Then the importers are now up in arms. So you find yourself between the hard and the hard ground.
No, but so, a quick one. The point is that it is not the entirety of the list.
40 products.
40. No,
it's
44.
specific.
No, 44. You 43, 44. but
it's not entirety.
You note it down. But it is not true. That is about the most significant portion of the everyday goods and services that we use. It ranges from cement to roofing sheets to milk to Milo.
But allow him.
Let me finish. So no, we are simply interrogating the matters. So it is not about the fact that government is listening. No, government is being beaten by the figures. The figures are biting hard at government. If you look at appropriation, the appropriation we passed 46 billion, 145 billion. That's the appropriation we passed. Projected revenue from tax and all other sources hovers around 88 billion.
Is it not 100? 137
billion. You couldn't
billion.
make 88 last year. How can you make 100? Let's be very realistic. They won't exceed 80. So
based on what are you making this? What is a prophet of doom?
Oh, I'm not a prophet of doom. I've given you. I've told you that apart from customs, it's your GRA,
science and data.
I've told you that performing. And even then, they set the bar so low, and yet they are not able to.
Last year, they exceeded their target. We were told.
If you take out the customs figure, customs is integral, but they do all other collections. In fact, there are other individuals who collect tax on behalf of GRA. You are aware. In fact, when people sell the retail shops, when they sell the VAT returns, it is GRA's duty to do those collections. So we must rather on the processes of collecting the tax. The government sees that it's only the customs wing or the customs division of GRA that is the super performer.
Okay.
And now because they are confronted by the importers, they are about to go back. Why? Two dates were issued. 4th January, the heat was so intense. Then they decided 4th January because when they rolled out the policy, persons, during the festive seasons, people will pay to collect goods because of the atmosphere. They are not able to pay certain. It crosses over to the new year. Those whose invoices were in the system, the digitalization, e-process, but came back on January 4th. We're now being asked that their invoices will have to be reassessed because of the revision of the benchmark values. So again, they also create a problem for government. So they shifted the reopening a later date. Again, pressure came to bear. So now it's fully been suspended, pending further as they are calling it.
Okay.
And so I want government to really analyze the issues, because they are not speaking to data. When they lifted this 3 years ago, what has been the benefit to we, the final consumer? They are not speaking to that data.
Yes.
But we can tell us that the anticipation was that when they lifted it, the importers will reduce prices. But they haven't. Based on ABC.
But the importers are also arguing that had it not been the benchmark value, prices would be far higher.
Well, but we want to see data. These are serious economic policy issues.
Well,
the government is also speaking without data. Importers are also speaking to the same issue. They are countering government's argument also without data.
I mean, it's a fair comment.
Before you respond, I want to tie your question, if you can do both for me. You heard him talk about the fact that you introduced a policy and told us that it's going to help these prices on the market.
Right.
We've largely not seen that. You are reversing the policy, and now it has led to agitations with the importers because you've given them some relief and you are taking it off from them.
Well, I mean, so it's clear. If you think the opposition thinks that it hasn't the intended results.
No, you are saying
government
so.
has it yielded?
No. I mean, the point you are making, the question you ask, that the been are not gone down we anticipate. I mean, government don't control. You bring the policy, but government, we don't have control prices to blame government that you've introduced a policy to ensure that they reduce the prices.
Have you had people who say the policy is populist in the first?
Wonder if the
benchmark value, because at the time I had a lot of saying it's not going to yield any sort of result.
There is no single policy one will introduce that will not affect somebody negatively. Definitely, whatever policy you bring will you negatively, and people have a reason to critique it. As I speak, I told you, Guta is on one side against the policy reversal today. AGI is celebrating it. Just as 3 years ago, AGI was crying, Guta was smiling. That is the on the ground. We are saying, introduce a policy 3 years down the lane. Indeed, if you look where government is the actual reduction of cost you would have paid at the port, that has been reduced. So we expect to reflect on their sales out there. So they are telling you, but for that, prices would have gone AB this way or that way. If you're asking for data, specific data, government can give you all the import that were made under benchmark value reduction and give you what would have been paid and what government has absorbed. That data is available. Prices of goods and services at the final consumer's table, government don't control it.
The government 3 years to realize it will not work.
Wait, I'm coming there. No, government, look, 3 years. 3 years. You know, investment has been made in the area of industrial. A lot of investment, to the extent that people are even questioning the exemption companies and the 1D, 1F. There's a lot of investment. Yeah. Another years, companies have started production. Today, we have Jata Cement. No, please. I mean, is it not a company? Is it not producing?
It's a Ghanaian
company. It's a Ghanaian company.
Jata has been set up and is setting up process long before you.
Oh, but when did you start production? Jata had just started production. It's a fact.
You want to politicize?
Look, my brother, you don't get a factory overnight. At the time you were setting up the Jata cement plant, it was not producing cement.
But they did
please.
No.
The test run produce cement.
It is the lifting of the benchmark that's enough.
No, what I'm making is that I'm making a
mention some other company.
Go to free zones,
That's your base.
enclave, you will get them there. Currently, we have about 3-4 different cement producing companies here. Is it worth continuing to support importation of cement?
Not at
It is
all.
not. That's the point I'm making. 3 years ago, Jetta Cement was in process. It was not producing cement. It has started producing cement. So you need to protect it. Right? The person who brings in a finished product of cement will be crying. But the long-term impact on this country, with respect to jobs these companies are creating, is worth investing towards that company and protect it. That's the position of government. So 3 years, a lot of things has happened. Mind you, COVID came. COVID and its effect and impact in this country. Before we started the manufacturing of sanitizers, nose masks, and the rest in this country, we had to rely on importation. Today, companies are set up here to produce face masks and all these apparels that we were importing to this country. So you wait 3 years, it's a long time to review your policy. So there's nothing wrong reviewing policy at this stage. It cannot be populist. If you introduce a policy and next month you review, that can be populist. And that you have not thought through the policy. But you introduce a policy, 3 years is a whole government life cycle. It's a whole government life cycle. It's enough to review that policy. So nobody should say that government is running that way. But you introduce a policy after 3 years, you review the policy, you want to say government had not thought through it? No. Government have really thought through the policy, and the review process is yielding this results, which I think the captains of industry, where we all hope that we will stop over-reliance on importation and go into manufacturing for our country, protect the jobs, the little jobs our people have, and do more where we are giving exemptions to companies to bring equipment to set up manufacturing. We need to also protect them.
So,
Can I reply?
okay, come in.
Okay. Quickly. One, my brother got it wrong when he said, after reviewing the policy, government had to reverse it wholly. When you do that, then
Having said wholly, selected.
what you lifted, you are bringing everything back.
Okay,
The
on the
44
listed.
yes,
Okay.
the categorized goods and services, you are bringing, in fact, you are reinstating everything.
Yes.
Now,
That's
if you
universal.
do that, then you to say you were being whimsical with the policy introduction.
You are limited.
Yes, because you see, you should be able to confirm through the Ghana Statistical Service to say that since the policy, this was how much import duties charged you, and by our derivative analysis 5 years before the introduction of the policy, these were the rate of increment in terms of this particular product or that. The introduction of the policy, this has been the rate of increment. So government could confront the importers and say that you have indeed not brought relief to the people as we anticipated, because your rate of increment is the rate of inflation. But if the rate of increment had been lower than it was before within the 5-year analysis that they would have done, then you disable them. But they are telling you that no, they would. It will boost it heavily.
We are not looking at the import duty.
Oh, no,
Stop.
but I'm supposed to make analysis, and I'm saying
you're
that
making the analysis, but I'm telling you,
I am saying
from government point of view.
No, I am saying that when you do that, your revenue mobilization is markedly.
But for us,
You are not saying so.
that is not what we are looking at.
It is me as the opposition man to point it out that that is a hidden agenda.
It's good when you enhance your revenue collection, but the policy is not targeted at revenue enhancement. It's targeted at, you see, revenue, direct taxes. If people, you have 2 or 3 being employed, they will pay their taxes. Okay, you get some revenue from that angle as well. So for me, our policy is targeted at our industrialization drive. Look, I look at the figures of exemption.
But you know that you also said that job creation was also part of the focal point of the policy introduction.
Yes.
But you haven't analyzed those figures.
No.
You haven't confronted the hypothesis that when we told you to employ more, expand, you haven't.
Nelson, I'm telling you today.
But even before you come in, let's be honest.
Yes.
There is no economy on the world that has created the needed jobs relying on importation.
No, I am not saying so. But you gave those reasons. I didn't. When you were
we never said. We never said
please,
it was create jobs.
Please, you did.
It is not. Listen, please.
No.
Look, for me,
Sylvester,
you import 100 containers of
Sylvester
mask. Let's take face mask.
No, Sylvester.
Import 100 containers of face mask into this country and produce 100 containers of face mask. Which of these two will create more jobs for the economy?
I am not your government spokesperson.
You are not. And
when you were introducing the policy,
we never said so.
You said so.
When
the policy document
to introduce.
In fact, you said that you were going to improve revenue generation because of the digitalization processes you were introducing. Your vice president said so. You said you were going to ensure that there will be more job creation because a lot of people, imports will be cheaper. Companies that were involved in it would have expanded. You made those arguments. And if we are sitting back to reinterrogate this, that is fine. But don't say that you didn't give some of this rationale for introducing the policy.
Let me give you a typical example.
We have a minute to wrap up on this.
Yeah, we'll wrap up on this. Let me give you a typical example on this. Look, my brother. Well, before we came into office, work at the port as a freight forwarder for about 18 years. Okay? Before 2016 elections, 2014, 2016, check the revenue collections of SEPs and in the port. A lot of diversion. People were using Togo borders. They brought a lot of policy that you cannot clear clothing at a plow. You have to go to Takrady. Yeah. It is all geared towards the checking. People were smuggling. Why? They were on the roof. Were high. So it's part of the reasons that inform government that let's introduce technology, enhance the process of collection revenue, and bring down the rate for a while, whilst we pursue our development, our industrialization agenda. And I've told you, 3 years down the lane, a lot of investment have been made in that direction, and it's yielding results. And we are of our industrialization, where 3 years ago we were not assembling cars in this country. Today there's evidence of Toyota. Today there's evidence of Peugeot. Today there's evidence that have been assembled here. The jobs have been created for our people. So do you keep the benchmark value on vehicles when you... No. That's the point we're making. But he made a very important case that we should have looked the traders in the face and tell them that we thought we were bringing these benchmarks to affect prices for ordinary people. But see, they are quick. Their statement they issued, they are quick to...
They ran away from that.
Yes, they are quick to give reasons of freight, the cost of freight. Yes. Look, indeed, that were being imported at the cost of $4,000 today has shot up to about $14,000. And that's the global supply chain effect. So, it didn't happen 3 years ago, but now they are citing that as reason. That didn't happen. They are talking of exchange rate. You see where they are running to. When they are being confronted with the fact that your prices are not commensurate with the rate at which we have given you the benchmark
under the
benefit. So it's a two-tier thing. Like I said, we should be able to tell them that we thought that when we give you, 2 months after reduction or bringing the benchmark value, somebody went to Abosokai and checked the jeans and the red. You know what somebody said? Now only time I'm in the engine.
Of course, he needs to clear the stock first.
He needs to clear the stock. Say, I didn't buy me crown here, maybe other truck is why you need a also on crown here, but that's typical of all of us. We should know that is something that affects all of us.
If you've just joined us, it's still Weekly Press Review News and on GTV. We're also live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. You can join our with your thoughts and comments. We'll read out what you think about the discussions and how we can improve the governance in the country. Well, the National Labour Commission has declared the strike by the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, as illegal. According to the Commission, the association did not follow the laid down procedures in declaring the strike. UTAG embarked on the industrial action last Monday, citing government failure to adhere to a roadmap on conditions of service that both parties had agreed on. At a crunch meeting on Thursday, that is yesterday, which was attended by the Employment Minister Ignatius Bafwa and also the Deputy Minister for Finance, Abino Sayasari, representative from Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, and also UTAG national executives. The Labour Commission, however, said the UTAG's concerns are genuine, but the mode of embarking on the strike was illegal. For this reason, the Labour Commission directed UTAG to sit with the employer to resolve the impasse. Honourable Tete, again back to you. We've seen a lot of agitations in the last year or two. And there is always a meeting to resolve the impasse between the employer and the employees. It's just a matter of a month or two, and the teachers will embark on another strike, which is disrupting academic calendar. It's disrupting the plans by students and their parents as far as their education is concerned. What is government not doing right, or what is the employees also asking that government cannot grant them, which is leading to these challenges that we are having?
Yeah, well, I mean, quite clearly, every employer wants more from the employee, and vice versa. An employee also wants more from the employer. And we've had this argument more to the extent that some people in the opposition have had cause to say that organized labor has been charitable with this government. They haven't seen enough demonstrations, they haven't seen strikes and all that. I think that the strike is unfortunate, where we always use a student as a bargaining chip, and that's how in this country successive government has suffered it. I remember former Rawlings, Mills, Kufuor, successive government has suffered it. The contention here is low remuneration and allowances and things of that nature. But look, I've always made that point, that they have a right to strike, but they should do it within the confines of the laid down rules that we all agreed to. So, yes, the UTAG has a right to strike, to press home their demand for better working condition or demand from government. But it is also important for them to look at the law under which they work, conditions under which they work, and the law, that you cannot declare a strike, then you come to sit on a table. No, you must be at work and continue to negotiate. Sometimes the demands.
They say the meetings have not yielded results. Anytime they embark on the industrial action, they are being called to the table. Nothing is done.
But you see, some of the demands are demands that cannot be met overnight. So we always plead with them, the doctors, nurses, teachers, whoever they are. We all know, if you call any of them, I was speaking to a teacher the last time, and she was telling me what deal they go through and how much they are paid and all that. In this country, my conditions of service are better, and we'll be applauding government. Some of the demands, you look at the budget, you look at the kitty, you look at how much is available, and you look at the demands you are making otherwise. So when they say no government wish that people are working, we have enough and we don't want to pay. No. They are competing this. We reckon the importance of what they are doing and the demands they are making. It's quite legitimate.
You argue that when it comes to remuneration for politicians, we have nothing like ND. You close doors of parliament, approve whatever is due you or what you think you deserve. When it comes to DS, you say we don't have enough.
The point is that is how everybody makes. But if you ask me where I am today, I have colleagues all over the sub-region. We check. They should do that. They are doing the same comparison, that comparing themselves to teachers and lecturers in the US, in Canada, and the rest. You check. The records are there for everybody. So for me, I don't want to do that argument. I know that everybody wants an improvement. They don't want certain categories of allowances that are being paid them. This particular allowance there, it's been negotiated since 2013. 2013. I mean, they claim that since 2013, they've not been paid and all that. I mean, if government have the money, they would have been paid. But realistically, it cannot be. Somebody even said that in other jurisdiction, that his qualification will be paid $6,000 a month. Who gets $6,000 a month in this country? Who gets it? It's not possible. So please, we want to plead with them. This issue of the allowances, and look, I was speaking to the Deputy Minister of Labour. It's normal for you tag any organized labor that when you can hold government is when kids are going to school. Yes, that's the time. You know, under NDC, it happened when they're going to write exam. When students were going to write BEC, they strike. The first time it happened. Then Osafo Mafo said he will bring retired teachers to go and supervise to go and supervise.
Recruit more.
And recruit more. Yes, it's true. Those you recruit can do press home demand for better conditions of service. So we should continue to press home for our desired conditions of service. But of course, you balance it. There are conditions of service that members of parliament should be entitled to. But we always remind ourselves, you look at the national budget, you look at what is in there, whether it can be met or otherwise. It cannot. So we shelve some of the demand. But I want to plead with them that they can still be at post and negotiate and make their point known to the good people of this country. When necessary, they will be able to support them in their. But this issue of using students to hold government to ransom, it is not only government you are holding to. Their family members are affected. Everybody is affected. You see, when the cycle is disrupted, the effect could be a graduate, a medical who should have been graduating this year will postpone it. Maybe you, the teacher striking today, you may need the services at the time you don't have.
Okay.
So they should also be considerate and not to use these students, poor students and poor parents, as a tool to press on their demands. Government's doors are always open, and just as the Fair Wages Commission told us, it's an illegality to strike when you've not come to the table for discussion. They have an opportunity to sit at the table and negotiate and press on.
Do you agree with his side of the argument when the teachers also say the only time they are given proper listening here is when they embark on a strike?
It looks
well. Even then, there are difficulties. So I don't want to make politics with this UTAG thing. '98, '99. We were giving him hell.
Yeah, he was.
The man was in second term, was looking forward to his retirement. Don't let this man sleep. So it was, and when we were student leaders at the time. So I remember I went for one meeting. They came and said, you tag, I know. I know. But who are you?
Yes.
You know, Federation University Staff Association. Oh, no. So it's been a perennial thing. But my worry is that when they engage government and other stakeholders and agreements are reached, memorandums are drawn up and properly or appropriately executed, and there's a roadmap to meeting the terms of those memoranda in respect of all the wings of workers' unions that we have. Why do we wait till sometime 3-4 years? Because if you hear, for example, it appears that if they have engaged government, some agreements have reached, terms, the memoranda contain the terms that they are supposed to follow, but nothing happened. For instance, research allowance, the book allowance, all those matters are germane. But what I am not happy about coming from TEU is that UTAG is that they are crying about I think one of the reasons is about the quality of students coming in. But we, Sylvester and I, you are not university administrators. You are the ones doing the admission. You are the heads of department. You are the deans. That's why you go through the ranks. You go as a TA, teaching assistant. You become a full lecturer, senior lecturer. You become assistant, associate professor, professor. You and in administratively head of department. You know all those things. So you go through the meal to lead academic institutions, and you are blaming government and politicians for giving you poor students. Okay. No. So they are confusing the matters. They shouldn't, for instance, tell us that the students who are coming in don't speak good English. No. That is why you have entry requirements. If the person doesn't meet the entry requirement, you admit. But don't enlarge the admission criteria. Admit the person and come and cry about what happens to the internally determined means of pruning of training the student. Okay, that's why you don't progress level 200 if you don't pass successfully the courses at level 100.
Okay. It's time for us to go for a break. We'll return and continue with this conversation. All right. Stay with us. Don't go away. Thank you so much for staying with us. As we promised, the show is interactive. We've heard a lot from the politicians, NDC, MPP as to what they think could be done to address some of the concerns we've been discussing since the start of the show. It's time to also pick your thoughts, and I'll quickly go to our WhatsApp platform where a lot of messages have been coming. Let's start with this one. It says what Ghana needs now is its local industries. The foundation of every country's economy is being able to grow what it eats and eating what it grows. It has become a irresponsible approach on the side of both MPP and NDC to control our revenue mobilization. Sorry for me to state, Ghana will still live in the update when we made mention of industrialization, revenue accumulation, and factor of import and export. Please, incumbent government, concentrate heavily on local industries, grow unemployment, increase employment. A lot of, so we cannot read more of that. He said, Honorable Sylvester Tete, how far this policy has been. He's asking for the feasibility of the policy, as Honorable Nelson has also been asking. This one comes from Kafu. He says, I registered my SIM card without my compound name. That was years back. What exactly he means, he was trying to explain with, yes. He said, now that my Ghana card is bearing my compound name, the current exercise going on, when I tried to register, they said my Ghana card is invalid. I think that's an issue you need to rectify with the NIA if you have any issue with your biodata office to register to the Registrar General for the Ghana card. There was long queues which saw the old struggling to be attended to, armed for faster attendance. That's a serious allegation. People are paying at the registration centers to get access, and the telcos may have to respond to this. To Honorable Sylvester, my name is Robert J, watching you live from Ayegbe town. Sir, please, I'm a graduate with International Professional Advanced Certificate in Banking and Finance. And I'm sure it's a job application. So we'll certainly print this application and send it to you so that. Yeah, but we don't. Do MPs give jobs?
No.
Come and see my office.
He says the house is 2 minutes away from.
He says, what? Let me read where the house is located.
Okay. He said, my house is only 2 minutes from walk from your office.
It makes it even worse.
This one also says, okay, I think I've read this one. Government needs to create a better macroeconomic environment for local industries by treating them the same way the foreign companies are treated, so that the cost of production will decrease marginally. That way, locally produced goods will be able to compete better. Importers will have no option than to fall on local industries for their products. If locally produced goods are inferior and expensive, government cannot compel Ghanaians to still fall for it. High cost of fuel, electricity, transport, and it affects production. Of course, if you look at the fact that we also want to industrialize, there are a lot of issues that we are not looking at. Cost of energy, access to credit have been an impediment to the growth of startups in the country. And that was from Apostle Safo. Okay, that's his name. Let's read the last two messages, or three, and continue with the conversation. Good morning to you, Sani, and Happy New Year also to your panelists, especially my hard-working MP and boss, Honorable Sylvester. Honorable Sylvester, you seem to have dominated my show, because everyone sending the messages is mentioning you. Is that I think there are enormous benefits of SIM registration, which include facilitation of citizens, access to e-government services, easy identification of an individual's mobile number, as well as aiding in combating cybercrime, including terrorism, by limiting covert communication and promoting good relations between consumers and service providers by simplifying identification of consumers and their use of SIM services. Well, this seems to be so, and that's from Mofoso Bismarck. I think, Honorable, you promoted the show well in your constituency, because a lot of the messages are coming from your constituency. And this one from Koferida, he says, good morning, I want to contribute to the discussion about SIM card registration, and it's how will the government, through the exercise without the people's house address are not indicated on the IDs. He's asking if I come with my NIA card to register, I only my name, my date of birth, and I think the source document. The source document. Yes, so yeah, the rest of the details will be captured, and that's. So this one says, good morning to you and your panelists. Why is that people are being forced to take the COVID-19 vaccines? Vaccination, COVID-19 vaccine is not the subject of the day, but people are not being forced to do that. It is. You need to also do to help us achieve the herd immunity so that we can curb the spread of COVID-19. You need to be responsible. And this one says, President Akufo-Addo has killed the country, and we need Lord intervention to bring Ghana back to life. Every sector of the economy is dead, including our soccer that unites us against political violence. And that's from Shaggy. Sending this message from Nima. I don't know what he exactly.
Tell Shaggy will win today.
Let's read this one from Michael, and he said, I want to ask Honorable Sylvester to answer some list of questions. Yeah, you have a barrage of questions for you. Let me read one for you, because we don't have time to do. Does these local companies he's citing have the capacity to meet the demands of Ghanaians? And that's one of the questions people have been asking. That if we completely reverse the policy and make importation unattractive, the local companies, do they have the capacity to produce and meet demand? I think that's a legitimate question that in the course of the discussion we may want to give answers to. And this one says, ministers, members of parliament who add nothing to the growth of the country's economy, but what they know is looting the people's money, should be paid better than professors. And that is his argument, that he thinks ministers are looting, but you don't have any sort of evidence to back or cite examples for us so that we appreciate your contribution proper. He said, please just try and help the teachers. Will it not, that has gone down, please let me go back. Will it not be sad news to hear that a teacher buys a refrigerator and go hungry that same month? So he's equating the salary. For example, if the teacher's salary is 2,000 cedis and he wants to buy maybe double door fridge, is going to cost around 2,000 cedis. Maybe something has to be done. But it's not just the teachers. We have a lot of people also. Okay, so this one has sent me a reminder because I've delayed in reading his message. He said, please read mine. I registered for the Ghana card since 2019 until date. I haven't received it yet. Was then in Kokomele and have moved to Kaswa now. I went to the GRA office December last year and I was told mine is still not ready. So how do I register my SIM card now? So he's talking about Ghana card and GRA. I don't know what exactly. Maybe he's talking about the NIA office. If you have registered and you still don't have the card, go to your district office of the NIA, and I'm sure they're going to help you. Let me read the very last one. He said, I think I've read this one. Let me, please just try and help us, teachers. I've read this one. Great submission by Honorable Sylvester. I think a lot of commendation for you. Of course, Honorable Roxanne has also been helping us, keeping his colleague on his toes to help us appreciate the discussion. He came here with a lot of documents, and I'm sure he has a lot to say when we return from this break. Thank you so much for staying with us. It is Weekly Press Review, your number one wrap-up analysis program. We are live on GBC News and on GTV. We are also streaming live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Once more, my name is Sani Abdurrahman, and I've been doing this with Honorable Nelson from the NDC, the Member of Parliament for Saturday, and also the Honorable Sylvester Tete, the Member of Parliament for Botiano, English, Amanfro. Honorable, let's wrap up in the next 5 minutes on the conversation of UTAG strike, and look at the Black Stars March this evening a little, so that we can make it.
Yes, I was making the point that UTAG appears to be mixing their solid points, the government of their grievances with realities. Because you see, the opposition, we told government that yes, with the free SHS policy, there will be increment in enrollment. That is to be expected. But the positive consequential effect of that is that there will be a lot of people exiting SHS who will be seeking access to university for tertiary education. So whilst we were making intervention at the secondary level, we should be thinking of making provision for these people 2-3 years ahead of time. Here we are today. Numbers have gone up by university enrollment. Now, that is why the lecturers will now cry about high student issue in the classrooms. A lecturer says political science, he has a class size of about 6,000 students. Political science 101, 6,000. So about 10% will have space in the classroom. When we're in N block, even at the time, about 200 or so could only enter. And that is why you see that as part of the issues they are raising, they're also asking for modern methods of teaching. They're asking for audiovisuals and all. So, yes, I agree, but let's first things first. Let's look at your book allowance, salary issues first, and we can go to logistical. So government should, as a matter of urgency, build more halls by way of accommodation. And also introduce, because I know that with the advent of COVID, they introduced systems where online courses were introduced and the universities were running double track. So my daughter, for instance, I think level 100, they went in, and then level 400. At 200, now she's going to 300. And I think they've gone and some. So there should be a system where we revolutionize the teaching and the tertiary level. And that will also bring improvement. Then, essentially, we should have a review of our educational system. There are a lot of issues ongoing, all the way to the basic level. You know, others are crying that for 2-3 years, some commentators are saying for 2-3 years, we haven't had textbooks since the introduction of the new curriculum. And it's key. Government keeps talking about instruction manual, but instruction manual, it's not a textbook. You can't learn about self-dying in an instruction manual. It is the textbooks that will talk about the heroic deeds of the people of Peki, of Pali, of Tongo, of Kweve in a textbook. Instruction manual won't tell you that. So we need our children to begin to learn some of these things in our books. So for me, in handling, we should, as a matter of, and please, your senior colleague, L, at Labour Commission, he should tone down in addressing some of these issues. The way you react to the issues publicly also has a way of bringing soothing effect. Don't be confrontational. Don't talk at the professors as if they don't understand what they are doing. You don't tell them that if they are not, an employee is not comfortable, you should resign. He used to be at GBC here. He used to agitate. Did he resign? So let's engage them in a more and accord each other with respect and handle the issues so that we can make progress. Because all the secondary schools have been asked, apart from the tertiary institutions, I've seen a letter that says all the schools are to go back, I think from our next week. Oh no, they've gone back. If you see the letter, all the levels. So everybody should be busy in bringing our educational instructions back on track.
We've just been notified because of the AFCON, they're taking us off GTV.
I see. And we wish the Black Stars very well.
Of course, the last 10 minutes of the show will be
we wish them well.
To looking at the chances of the Black Stars.
Sylvester is one of, I think that's one of his key areas. And but I'm not happy about their performance so far.
Okay.
It happened before we started slowly and made an impact. I pray that today we can make progress.
Okay.
And bring back the spirit that when they do well on the international stage, they have a way of having a multiply effect on the happiness, the joy, and even expenditure in the economy.
If you've just joined us, it's still Weekly Press Review. We are being taken off GTV because we need to make way for the discussion ahead of the crucial encounter at 1 p.m. But the show continues on GBC News and also on Facebook. We have 10 minutes to wrap up the discussion. Honorable Sylvester, I'm being told you are a sports person.
I mean,
I want to pick your thoughts on the crucial encounter we have this evening with the Gabonese.
I was in Yaoundé to watch the first opening game of the Black Stars in Morocco. I think from my personal perspective, I'm a Kotoko fan. Anywhere I my Kotoko, any day.
I'm a Hasselhoff fan.
One day I'll be chairman of Asante Kotoko.
Yes, you have to see Kempon, Kennedy Japan.
One day. I mean, I've watched the team play, and this is a team for the first time in AFCON. We're in a tournament with 17 combatants, new players. Faces. So it tells you the telepathy will not be as it used to be. But I love the way they play. I mean, there's so much confidence in the team. Until the 83rd minute where we considered a goal, I thought that we had fairly played. We have fairly outplayed the Moroccans, and I think that we should keep our pace. We shouldn't put so much pressure.
But the statistics says otherwise.
Yes, but I think that, you see, we went into the game with so much respect for the Moroccans. I mean, they are one of the teams that are tipped to.
Frankly, I didn't see the usual Black Stars team and the energy.
Yes, you see, so like I said, you are not having the complement of a team that have played for about 5-6 years together. It's a new
with cohesion.
So it's expected to have that. So 2013 we went down our first match. 2015 we went down our first match. We went up to the finals, and I'm confident that we'll beat the Gabonese and beat the the Comorans and will qualify to the next stage of the competition. I still think that when they find their rhythm, which I pray they find the rhythm today, they will obviously make all of us proud. And I'm confident because the team I saw, though we started slowly, but we were able to. What I didn't like about the area balls were the Moroccans were taller than us and were passing the ball in the air, and they were picking all the 50-50 balls.
The ball wasn't on the ground.
Wasn't on the ground.
No, the game is on the ground.
The ball on the ground and split their defense open. But when you keep the ball in the air, obviously they are taller than the ball. So any ball floated into their area becomes a 50-50 opportunity, because if your player is passing you the ball and is in the air, then you don't have control over it anymore. So you start building the attack from your defense and split them open, you can beat them.
I think you should have joined the management team.
And let me add that I think our coach should also make his substitutions.
I mean, it was for me.
Yes.
After
When you go down and then you introduce three fresh legs, everybody sees that you're like in a panic state.
Look, listen. They went into the dressing room. Then all our boys on the bench quickly came back to the pitch to warm up. So I was asking myself, the dressing room pep talks, were they not part of it?
How would they listen?
So I was a bit
because it's very important going to the second half.
You know, so what I think the coach should do, after 65th minute, you realize that some of the players were tired. You quickly should make your substitution. And this is a tournament that you reveal, that will reveal new
legs, yes.
So you should experiment. You should experiment, and that's where I think they miss out by experimenting. So when you have opportunity to have brought in new players, when you 65th minute, you realize some of the players were tired, and from the day's own account that he was not feeling too well, he had to go into the game. If he's played past 70th minute mark, he should be able to substitute him on time. And he was injured. So
but we wish them all the best.
We wish them the best. I mean, I think that I still do my heart.
They should come with a win, irrespective of the goal margin.
It's a Milo one goal project.
So to help us with the conversation, we've been joined by our sports analyst.
Yeah, our usual.
Yes, the Theophilus Sampa, to help us appreciate the dynamics in the game and what it will mean for us this evening. To a lot of expectations, a lot of pressure. And you watched the video of Antonio Bafu yesterday.
Yes, maybe I didn't got in.
Yes, I mean, inspiring the players and telling them.
We will soon maybe probably get a little bit of the bite. It was really refreshing seeing somebody who has been there before telling them the enormity if they've forgotten.
In fact, 30 years ago.
40 years.
30. Tony Bafu.
Yes, Tony is
1930.
And for currently, for our generation, we are yet to really see. And so with you guys here, I hear most of you were a little bit younger when the last won it.
Yes.
And so for our generation,
No, we were very
82. You were toddlers.
But at least you had a feel of the cup.
Now you guys didn't see that.
no, we didn't see. We watched on TV by kindness of no, when
You watched a clip.
the clip.
Were you even born in 82?
So let me put these questions to you. What are our chances this evening?
I think that our chances are very, very bright. For Africa Cup of Nations,
You
there
have
is this
0.2.
very bright. The reason is just simple. You see, in terms of player attitude, mentality, and everything, the Black Stars are there. The reason being simple. Our predecessors really made it big at that time, and there's still that belief that the team will come good. We start off very, very slow, and then we build up. And if you look at our performance when we played that friendly match with Algeria, and then you saw what we did with Morocco, it tells you that it is just a matter of time. And that time is this evening when the boys just rise up again and go and defend the flag of Ghana. And with that message from the former players telling them that it is time, this is not time for them to really joke. And Anthony was really particular because Aubameyang is back. Aubameyang plays with Partey. He's the captain of Arsenal. So that respect, that friendship is there.
And I think that was one of the concerns raised, that we had a lot of respect for the Moroccans, and I don't expect that to
at this time it will not happen because
for the Gabonese.
Let me ask you if you expect any sort of change in our lineup before Tio comes in.
Well, I would love to see Samuel. What's the name? Samuel, that smallish guy, in the midfield, because he has a lot of pace. He can hold on to the ball and you know, I listened to the Gabonese coach yesterday, and in fact, the entire country, Gabon, are so excited about the return of Aubameyang. He's a very good player, quality at its best. But trust me, the Black Stars will triumph today. I mean, he's an individual. He's just recovered from COVID. And the post-COVID symptoms or
maybe in favor of Ghana.
So you will operate at full capacity. No. You can't operate at full capacity. So definitely.
From where you sit, with all the expertise, you expect any change in the lineup, especially up front where we didn't see much in the first match?
The reason attackers were a little bit cold on the day was that supplies were not coming in. Look at the fact. Our engine room has been the midfield. Had Kudus Mohamed been available, Thomas Partey would be that free to distribute the balls, because Kudus holds on to the ball. He's creative as well. He can attack. He can defend as well. But currently, in the first game, we saw that Wakaso was sick. So he wasn't even part of the squad. We know what he's capable of doing if he is also in the midfield. So we allowed Partey to be doing all the work in the midfield. I suspect that he was a bit tired. That was why when he even cleared the ball, that ball had to go to the Moroccan, and he said thank you and just had to slot the ball in. But this particular time, I think that there will be vigilance in the midfield. I'm expecting more from Sulemana because that guy is gifted. I'm just hoping that when he gets to the third half, he will be a little bit calm, just raise up his head and see, and then continue with his brilliance. I am seeing the Stars really finding their rhythm this time around. There is no excuse anymore for them to say, oh, Gabon. Gabon has been our friend in the past. We know when they even hosted, we went there, and then wherever we did. The boys are coming good. The boys have really realized that indeed the spirit is back. Everybody's talking about them. Now the politicians are even talking about how the team must win. Because if they don't win, and look at the heat in Ghana, it will be more. Air condition cannot save us. So the politicians are even aware. Kindly, if you go to, imagine Parliament was in session.
Especially from where Honorable Judge is.
All of them understand. All the politicians
because of the tournament, I've had to buy like 6 TVs for some communities in South 9, so they can watch the tournament
on GTV.
Oh, with DSTV.
Yes. So if they even watch it there, they will not get the excitement. They need to watch it on GTV because that is where the excitement is.
You know, because of soccer.
Yes.
So soccer.
Imagine the soccer
is a social engineering.
By 6:30, there will not be traffic on our roads.
Yes. Everybody will be exposing their watching.
So in terms of scoreline, what are you expecting this evening?
If we can score 2, given our performance previously, if we get 2 goals with a win, then I'll be happy.
I see 2 goals
with a win.
Black Stars, yes. I mean, definitely
with a win.
If it's 2 goals to 0,
it's fine.
It's a 2
if
goals.
2-0, members of the both divide. Telling you that we scored 2.
No,
that's all.
Parliament has agreed.
In soccer, in sports, when it's sports,
the parliamentarians are one.
No, when it's sports, there's no politics in sports.
That is
and it's a pain for us that you, the media people, you don't see that. When it's sports, and sports is one great glue in this country.
Yes.
It binds us together.
More than the other things.
Oh yes. You see, the other thing is a musical chair.
Football is the only game in Ghana when your colleague, your wife, your friends don't like it, you try to coerce them to like it.
Even domestic fight, it ends with soccer. When there's soccer. And when Blaster is winning, the women they forget that they are problems. The men also forget that they are problems. But when we are not winning, no.
They'll demand
So Tio, let me pick your final thought before we wrap up.
I think that everybody should hope again, because there is hope. The boys have really given an indication that they are indeed.
And the chief imam should pray for us this afternoon. Ajuma, and the pastors, they should pray for us.
Everybody's praying. And so if you look at their demeanor in their last game, irrespective of we're going to see real zeal. We're going to see expected everything.
Quality of the goals, it can be, for instance, the first was the header, and then the second one, the way he pulled back. What it means is that it's not just Abubakar who is scoring the goals.
I know and then I said we put up my good I keep instead of